All right, my name is Caitlin Ramage, and I am the Program Administrator with Sport BC and Kids Sport BC. I would like to respectfully acknowledge that while the work of Sport BC and our members takes place throughout British Columbia, the Office of Sport BC is on the unceded traditional territory of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. As well, as we get going, if you want to put in the chat where you're joining us from today, as I know we have people from all over the place here, and if you represent an organization, what organization that is. And then I would like to introduce Erin Wilkins, so she'll be moderating this event. Erin is the past president of Promotion Plus and is currently a member of Sport BC Promotion Plus Committee. Promotion Plus is a program of Sport BC that is dedicated to gender equity for girls and women in sport, recreation, and physical activity. Erin's work with Promotion Plus is dedicated to advocating for opportunities and gender equity for girls and women in sport, as well as facilitating and promoting the long-standing Bobby Steen Legacy Foundation Award and In Her Footsteps. Erin is a department chair for recreation studies at Langara College. She is a not-for-profit consultant, a director for Canada Snowboard, and is a long-standing leader and volunteer in the sport and recreation community. Erin presented the opportunity for Promotion Plus and Sport BC to host this conversation after meeting Friba in early November. Recognizing her own connection with the sport and post-secondary education communities, she was inspired by Friba's important and urgent work she is doing to find refuge for female Afghan athletes through education and sport in Canada. Thank you, Erin, for creating this opportunity for this conversation. And then now over to you.
Thank you, Caitlin. Hi, and welcome everyone. It's really great to see so many familiar faces here today. Thank you all for coming, and thank you Sport BC for hosting this very important conversation. I am very excited to introduce to you our guest today, Friba Rezayee. Friba is the founder and executive director of the not-for-profit organization Women Leaders of Tomorrow, whose mission is to empower women and girls through education and sports. Friba has resided in Vancouver in Canada since 2011 and holds a bachelor's degree in political science from the University of British Columbia. Friba was born and raised in Kabul, Afghanistan, and at the age of 18, she made history by competing in judo in the 2004 Olympic Games in Athens as Afghanistan's first ever Olympic athlete. Friba's participation in the Olympics brought Afghanistan back to the world stage in sports after the fall of the Taliban. She inspired hundreds of other Afghan girls to join different sports in a sports revolution for Afghan female athletes. With the recent Taliban takeover in Afghanistan, Friba has been focused on helping female athletes find refuge and relocate safely. When the US, Canadian, and other Western forces pulled out of Afghanistan at the end of August, the lives and hopes of Afghan girls and young women were catapulted into uncertainty and fear. Overnight, girls were barred from school, women were sent home from their jobs, and those who had publicly advocated for women's rights were forced into hiding. Urgently, Friba has been working to rescue all female athletes before the Taliban finds them. Friba is here today to share with us her inspirational life story, what she is urgently doing to provide refuge for Afghan athletes, and what we can do to support young athletes as they try to exit Afghanistan safely, and how we can support athletes who've already made it to Canada. Friba has been an outspoken and passionate advocate for women's and girls' education, gender equity, human rights, and women's rights in Afghanistan and worldwide from an early age to present. She's been interviewed by media locally and internationally countless times. You may have seen her on the news already. And we are very honored to have her here today to inspire us with her story. Also joining us today is Roya, who is joining us live right now from Afghanistan. And she's training currently for the 2024 Paris Olympic Games. Roya will speak to us a little bit later and tell us her story about her life in Afghanistan and what female athletes are facing right now. I'd really just like to welcome Friba and welcome Roya today. So Caitlin, you can just pop the next slide on, that'd be great. Lastly, I'm going to moderate the conversation by asking Friba a number of questions to guide the discussion. So if you have questions of your own, just please pop them into the chat so you don't forget them, and we'll open up a Q&A at the end of the guided discussion here. So Let's get started. Welcome, Friba. Why don't you start by telling us a bit about how you started in judo and your journey to the Olympics in 2004?
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Erin, for the lovely introduction. I'm honored to be here. In late 90s, when the Taliban took over the country, my family took refuge to Pakistan, like so many other Afghan families. And in our refugee home, in one of our small TV, I watched Layla Ali's live matches. Layla Ali, the daughter of Muhammad Ali Kili. And I was really inspired by her sports, by the brave person she was, so confident, and she fought in a combat sport. And that was very rare and very surprising to me. And I fell in love with her work. And I wanted to do the same thing. And when USA invaded Afghanistan in 2001, my family returned to Afghanistan, like so many other Afghan families. And we were promised normal life, freedom, access to education, and everything. And I wanted to continue my boxing dream, and I wanted to become a champion. And I believed at age of 16 that if I train hard and have a dedication, I will challenge Layla Ali in one of her matches in Las Vegas. And I truly believe that. And when we returned to Afghanistan in 2001, I was in search of boxing sport, but there was no boxing for women. I was able to find a boxing coach, but he did train me for a little bit, but he no longer was able to, because I was the only girl in the entire country to practice boxing, and he was no longer able to train me because of the security reason. When I insisted that I want to continue boxing training, he said that sport is not more valuable than your life, and he hung up the phone on me. But I was still in search of like sports and combat sports, and I found this judo center, dojo, and I met my very first Afghan coach, Farhad Hazrati, who's still my coach. And when I met him, before even I introduced myself or any greeting, and I was like, Coach, I want you to train me boxing because I want to challenge Layla Ali. And he looked at me and he said, well, we don't train boxing here, but we do judo. You're welcome to join us judo. And I joined judo. And the first time I stepped on the judo mats and I wore the judo uniform and the belt, I fell in love because I could feel and sense immediately this is the best way where I can find my confidence. It was very empowering. I continued my training, and because I was good at my training, I competed locally and I competed at the national team, and I also started competing internationally until they selected me to represent Afghanistan at the 2004 Athens Olympic Games. We were 5 athletes. I was, and I still am, the only Afghan woman from Afghanistan who represented and competed in a combat sport throughout the history in Afghanistan to present day. Only 4 women have competed at the Olympics. Myself and 3 others. The 3 others were runners. That's how I started my Olympic journey. And at that time, Afghanistan was in a very dark era. Afghanistan completely fell off world's agenda and world's attention. Nobody was paying attention to Afghanistan in late 90s. Whatever the Taliban did, nobody was paying attention. And my participation at 2004 Olympic Games was a dawn of sport for women, and it was a sports revolution. Thousands of other Afghan women started competing at the competitions, and they started playing sport because it opened the doorway for the other Afghan women. So it was very historic, and it was very, very significant moment for me and for the entire country.
Wow, what a story. Just the power of sport and what you're saying about, the confidence that it helped you build and the empowerment, and that's so special. You You mentioned what it meant to you to be the first Afghan Olympian, but what did that look like for other women and girls in Afghanistan at the time? And to tell us a little bit more about sport in general and what gains women and girls in Afghanistan have made over the past 2 decades from this monumental participation that you had starting in Athens.
When I participated at the Athens Olympic Games, there was mixed reaction from people. The fundamentalists and Taliban, the Taliban was still there. The Taliban did not like it, and they disapproved of me playing at the games because they considered to be a very un-Islamic act by a woman who did not cover her head, and she competed internationally, and the entire world was watching. But the youth and women and feminists and freedom, people who loved freedom, they really appreciated and they supported me. Sports has always been stigma has always been associated with the women's sport, because sports for women is a very bold and very visible and public thing to do for if Afghan women do so. It was very difficult, it was very challenging and very shocking to so many as well, that a girl for the first time competed and she did not cover her head. Not only covered her head, I cut my hair very short and I dyed it red, so that made me stand out in the crowd, and that also drew a lot of attention, and a lot of attention brought also a lot of risk and the threats with it. But the youth and my high school back in Afghanistan really appreciated, and they supported me when I went back to my high school. My sports teacher gathered younger girls and they sang the national anthem to me. It was as I mentioned earlier, it was like a sports revolution for other Afghan women, because the other women thought that if she can compete, if she can take the risk to train in a combat sport and compete internationally, so can we. And it was very inspiring. And in Norwegian nonprofit organization Judo for Fred, which just means Judo for Peace, has supported me, and that organization made it possible for me to be able to compete at the Olympic Games, as well as my judo coach, who still is my coach, and he is trapped in Asia right now.
What about your family and your parents and government? Like, was everybody supportive of you? Or I'm sure that there were people who were not. What did that look like? You must have been scared at some point.
It was very scary. Frankly speaking, it was very scary. A lot of people suggested that I should not do it. It's very risky. My father always supported me. And when I didn't make it to the next round, I called my father and I was very sad, very disappointed. And I was crying. And my father said that, don't be sad because you didn't make it to the next round. Think about his historic moment. This is like a first step on the moon. And that made me feel a little bit better. However, my mother was not very supportive at the beginning, because my mother expected me to play the traditional Afghan role, which is that you get married at early age, you bear children, and you became an obedient housewife to her husband. She wasn't supportive at the beginning, especially in a combat sport like that. But later she realized that this is what I wanted to do, and the impact that it made on the Afghan society and gender equality and gender equity in Afghanistan. She later supported me. And I was receiving death threats from my neighbors, from my relatives, from the society, from the sometimes I did not receive support from the government either. So it was mixed reaction, with the danger and threat being greater than not risky. But at the end of the day, it was worth it, because I truly wanted to set a precedent for women's rights and for gender equality. I chose a combat sport, and I wanted to play combat sport because I wanted to bring visibility to women's rights, and I wanted to prove to the Afghan society that women and girls are as strong as boys, and we can do whatever we want to do, like men, like boys, and also to show to the world that Afghan women exist, and we compete internationally, and we make our marks.
Wow, you are so brave. That is just,
Thank you.
it's very, it's remarkable. Caitlin, can you do the next slide? So this is a troubling picture here, and I was hoping you could tell us a little bit about why has the Taliban banned women's sports in Afghanistan now, and how is this impacting women and girls in Afghanistan presently? Like, what's going on in this picture here?
Since 2004, Afghan women have played many different sports. We had soccer team, basketball team, volleyball team, fencing, all the sports that existed in the world. We Afghan women did, and we had professional team, Ivy League, and best league at every aspects of a sport and every sport. And all those women have competed, and they won, and they made a mark for Afghan women. So we had so many achievements and gains through sport as well. Afghan women competed cricket competitions, soccer. They have won many, many medals, and it was becoming more normal for Afghan women to play sports, which we hold those gains and achievement very, very precious to us, because we worked very hard and we were making a significant impact in the Afghan society. And all the athletes, they became a human rights defender. They became fighters for gender equality, and they have spoken, and they spoke in local media, international media about that. And we also had a campaign, and it made a significant change in our lives until August this year, and the Taliban returned. The central government collapsed up completely, and the Taliban with the Haqqani group returned. They immediately banned girls' education and sports for women, because according to the Taliban's interpretation of Sharia law, sports for women is a sinful act. It's forbidden, and it would be punished by receiving 100 times lashes to death penalty. It's considered to be un-Islamic and untraditional act, because sport is reserved for men, and also because it brings visibility to women, and women will be seen in public, and men will see them outside of her homes, outside of her hijab. So that makes it a sinful act for the Taliban. On December 19th this year, the Taliban has issued a decree banning women. They did not only ban women's sport, they were patrolling. These three guys, they were actually more fighters on this picture. They couldn't capture them, but these three guys were from the Haqqani group, one of the other terrorist groups who work with the Taliban. They were patrolling our judo center, dojo. This is the same dojo where I used to train, where our team used to train. They were looking for the girls to come for the training to apprehend them. And they were also looking for my Afghan coach, male coach, who trained girls. And they were accusing him of breaking the Sharia law code, the moral code in Islam. And they were also accusing him for allowing the two gender to practice together, which Islam does not allow that. They were simply waiting for the girls to come and arrest them. One of our judo members in Afghanistan managed to take a picture of this particular scene, and he sent me. It was very, very risky, but that's what is happening. And that's the exact same dojo where I used to train. So they're not only looking for the judo athletes, they're looking for all the Afghan female athletes wherever they are. When they returned, they made a list, and they took a survey from the community, and they forced the employee of National Olympic Committee to give them the list of sports centers where women trained, to go after them. And they have a list of all these female athletes to find them and to execute them, because according to them, female athletes brought dishonor to Islamic society and Islamic culture. So all the Afghan female athletes are in hiding who remain in Afghanistan. A large number of them successfully made it to safe countries. Like so many of them went to Europe. The social sports, for example, soccer, basketball, a few other sports, they successfully made it to Europe. But the majority of athletes from the martial arts, they remain behind because other sports get more attention from the world, especially football and soccer and basketball, but not so much martial art. But we are equally, but they're equally eligible and they're equally at risk. So that is the status of Afghan women's sport now. None of the female athletes can dare to post a picture of their training on social media. In middle of August, when the Taliban returned, I removed all my social media posts that covered and contained our female athletes' names, faces, and location. And all the other women deleted their social media accounts and they removed all their pictures because they could be easily targeted. That is the current status now.
Wow. Caitlin, can you just flip the next slide? So, oh, here we are. So what are you hearing from the girls and women about their lives right now? And where are some of these athletes here in this picture? Where are they today?
The man in the picture is Farhad Hazrati. He's my coach who trained me, and he always respected women and he always supported women. He truly believed in gender equality. I rarely advocate for Afghan men, but I will advocate for him because he's a rare gem in our society. So this picture was taken just a few days the Taliban has returned. Nobody was believing, none of these girls believed that they will return and they would be banned from playing sports. So they still continue training at the dojo. So the girls on this picture, starting from the left, the girl with the short hair, she's Parveen, and she was one of our, and still is our prominent judo athlete who's still in Afghanistan. And Women Leaders of Tomorrow has trained her and prepared her and even funded her training opportunity to compete at one of the judo Grand Slam in Tashkent in March this year before the Taliban returned. And she competed very well. She was very brave. She faced her opponent fearlessly, and she was becoming very well known and prominent female athlete. And she was also on our list to prepare for the Paris 2024 Olympic Games. And all the girls in the white uniform, they were member of our national team, and they're still in Afghanistan. The girl in the blue uniform who is standing, she's Qudsiya. She's the girl I mentioned on the media as well. When the Taliban returned, they raided her house for playing sports, and the Taliban leader scheduled her to come show up at the local mosque to punish her by hitting her 100-time lashes for breaking the Sharia law code. She called us and she was panicking. We managed to find her shelter and safety in a woman's safe house in Kabul by one of our friends from Ontario. She managed to escape that order from the Taliban immediately, but she waited 5 nights in a car with her father at the airport in the middle of August to simply get a chance to get in one of those military airplanes by either Canadian or US military airplanes to be airlifted to safety. But unfortunately, due to the suicide bombing and the chaos at the airport, she wasn't able to get on the plane, although we have gave her name for the evacuation list to both Canada and USA, but she still didn't make it to the airplane. And the girl who was kneeling in front of her is Roya. And you can see our champion, who we're very proud of. She was standing, she was there, tall and proud. And the girl in the Adidas uniform, she's Zakira, and she was one of our first recipients of Women Leaders of Tomorrow and its goal project, GOAL, which stands for Girls of Afghanistan Lead, which provides leadership training for Afghan women and girls through sports. So they become either athletes, instructors, or work at the sports world to empower other Afghan women, and especially the youth. She's also in Afghanistan currently, and she's in hiding. What I hear from Afghanistan, from these girls these days, is a plea to save their lives. They're stuck in Afghanistan, they're trapped, and they're asking me and they're begging me to save their lives, because since the Taliban returned, they have been in hiding, and they're in temporarily housing. Now they're changing their location every other 3 to 4 weeks because they're on the Taliban's list. And if they stay with their families and the same location, they could be found easily. They're asking me to help them leave the country, reach safety. They don't care where they want to go or where they should go. They just want to reach safety. In the middle of August, the Canadian government also created an emergency response to evacuees, and we added everybody's name on the list to be evacuated to Canada. Unfortunately, Canada ended that mission before its deadline, and now we are trying with the Canadian government to help them reach safety, but it's extremely difficult, and they're stuck. They're stuck in Afghanistan. The only thing that is standing between them and their safety is just government bureaucracy. Those are the messages that I'm receiving, and I am in contact with these girls on a daily basis to make sure that they're alive, that they're okay. If I don't hear from them in 2 days, I panic and I'm scared. I call them to make sure that I hear their voice, that they're okay.
Caitlin, can you move next slide? Well, we have one of these girls here today with us, Roya. So I would like, Friba, you can introduce Roya and tell us a little bit more about her, and then we will be able to hear her story.
Sure. Roya Shafi is one of our member of women's national team in Afghanistan. Before she joined judo, she played free fights and MMA, and she has competed in that sport, and she has won many medals from international competition. And she was, and she still is on our list to prepare her for the Paris 2024 Olympic Games. No matter what's happening in Afghanistan now, she's not giving up her hope to compete at the upcoming Olympic Games. So I welcome her. Roya Janobatas.
معرفی کنم خدا فریبا جان.
Mbala.
Hello everyone, I hope you all fine. And my name is Roya Shafi. I'm from Afghanistan and I'm 21 years old. Now I live in Afghanistan and I am a member of the Afghanistan national judo team. I read my topic. I can read.
Yes, welcome, Roya. Thank you for joining us. Yes, please go ahead and tell us a little bit about what's going on right now for you.
Yeah, thank you. Before the fall of Afghanistan, the Taliban, girls were going to school and had the right to work. But unfortunately, girls now don't have the right to study, work, or do sport outside your home. I'm one of those girls, the part of all my human rights. I want to continue my studies and do my exercise to build my future, but unfortunately, I'm not allowed. I have practiced in different fields of sport for 6 years, and I have won many medals. My only wish is to become a champion judo. My only wish is to become a champion through judo, but due to the current crisis in Afghanistan, my life has become minuscule and I am emotionally damaged. I'm really worried about my future. I'm trying to leave Afghanistan and go somewhere to save my life and continue to work hard to make myself able to participate in the 2024 Olympics and achieve my dreams. I sent many applications to Canada, but so far I have not received a reply. I have been waiting here for a long time. I hope that due to the critical situation in Afghanistan, they will respond my application. I request everyone not to forget Afghan people, especially girls and women. I ask all people and countries not to forget the Afghan people and not recognizing the Taliban. Finished. This is my topic.
Thank you, Roya. And
Welcome.
I know I speak for everyone here today listening. Our hearts go out to you, and we want to know, how we can continue to support you and your teammates. And this is a really hard for us to hear your story. You're working so hard, and you have had so much success, and you have dreams for your future in education and in sport. I know you've been really working with Friba. Friba was mentioning earlier that you're working on your English and with a tutor from Alberta, and that she's been helping connect you through the Women Leaders of Tomorrow program. Friba, maybe you can tell us a little bit more about how Women Leaders has been supporting Roya.
Sure. Women Leaders of Tomorrow is a nonprofit society in Vancouver, BC. We empower women and girls through sports and education. One of our program is our English language tutoring program. We assign and recruit tutors and teachers from North America. A few of our teachers are from England as well. It's an online session. We assigned the teachers to connect with the students in Afghanistan to train them with English language because we want to empower women through language, because once they learn the language and the international language, they can speak for themselves and they feel empowered, because often Afghan women's messages are not heard because they couldn't speak in English. And we are really grateful to our teachers and tutors who are volunteering with us to train girls with their English language. It's twice a week. Every session is about 60 minutes, 1 hour, and everything is held online. Right now, we are receiving new applications, and every day we're actually receiving applications from the teachers as well as from the students. So the demand for the online English language classes is growing, because a lot of these girls, their studies were interrupted by the Taliban, and they want to continue their education now. Because they're trapped at home, Women Leaders of Tomorrow aims to deliver the educational opportunities and the education to them at home online, until, and we're hoping that the Taliban will not cut off the internet services, and they may not cut off because they're also reliant on the internet connection. That's how they spread their propaganda as well. But this tutoring program has been really empowering the students, because we have students from diverse backgrounds. We have nurses, we have college students, we have high school students, and we have athletes like Roya. And the purpose of this tutoring is also to have a mentor, to have a mentorship program for these women. Just let them know that there's a mentor who are working with them. There's somebody who is listening to them and empower them. So it has been really great and very impactful. Roya has been a student as well with us as part of being as part of athlete, but also English language a student with us, and she has showed satisfaction, and so did so many other students.
The work that Women Leaders of Tomorrow is doing right now, it's so special. And to provide these girls with, the mentoring programs and the tutoring, and to get them the English skills that will allow them to meet the requirements to get into North American schools. I mean, that is such a key step in the process. And then, of course, it's also making connections with all of the colleges and universities and looking at their recruitment programs and how to really facilitate getting their applications through. And on top of that, it's the visas and the government and all, like you mentioned, the bureaucratic red tape that should not be holding these girls back right now. So I know that I've had conversations with Friba and some of our team at Langara College in our International Studies department, with our athletics department, and we're looking at ways to help streamline this process for these athletes to get them over here. Friba is going to talk a little bit more about Women Leaders of Tomorrow, and again about what we around the table here can do to support these girls. But before we do that, I think we just have 2 more slides. One, there's a little video. I think it's a roya training. Love to hear a little bit more about what's going on here. So we will play it for a few seconds here. And then there's one around the housing situation. So what's going on here?
This is a video of roya Shafi training in Afghanistan.
So, and this is what the facilities and the equipment and things that we have right now?
Yes, she was training there for conditioning and for cardio. This was, of course, before Taliban took over, because right now these centers, they're all shut down.
Mm-hmm. And so, are you able to do any training right now? What's happening for you now with everything closed?
Yeah, please allow me to translate that.
Yes, please.
No, I cannot, because the Taliban say the women or girls cannot go to gym, exercise. They're closed. We cannot go.
That must be so hard for you. It's just heartbreaking here to know that this is the situation that you're currently dealing with, and the living situation and the housing. Caitlin, if you could maybe show us the next slide too. Friba, you can talk a little bit about where the athletes are hiding and what these temporary houses look like.
Sure. As you mentioned, that it's very hard not to be able to train. It's devastating, and it's also, I'm very, very angry and frustrated to what happened to Afghan women, and to Afghanistan in general, because we were making significant impacts and progress. Women Leaders of Tomorrow was also able to train and prepare one of our judo athletes, to compete at the Tokyo 2020 Olympic Games, and she did, and she competed as a member of IUC's refugee team. Those were the progresses that we were making. She was still at the Olympics in Tokyo when the Taliban took over and the central government collapsed. So it was devastating, and I'm still very angry at what happened. So this is the picture of temporary housing for these athletes, where Roya visits the other girls as well, Parveen and Zakra, whom I mentioned in the pictures. There's not much in this room, and there's only like a mattress and blanket, and they share the blanket and the mattress, and they're in a very dire situation, and it's extremely cold in the province where they are now. They left the capital to go to different province for safety, because they will not be fined and targeted by the Taliban. So this is the temporarily living situation for those women, because they're hiding, and they're only 3 girls, and whom I'm advocating significantly with the Canadian government and Canadian community here to get them into safety as soon as possible. They sent me a picture of their room recently, and I wanted to share it with everyone to bring visibility and to show it their living conditions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, you mentioned that some of the work that you've been doing with government. Now, I know that you have sent a letter to Justin Trudeau to remove some of the red tape to get these athletes to safety, and it was signed by numerous Olympic athletes. I'm just wondering if you could speak to that a little bit more. Caitlin, you can move to the next slide where we're going to talk a bit about women leaders of tomorrow, but I think first maybe you can share what you have done getting in touch with our federal government, what type of progress you have seen there, and then maybe we can go into to more about women leaders and about what people around the table can do to help here.
Sure. We have been submitting their applications, all their information, passports to the Canadian government since middle of August. That did not give us any results. So we started a very strong advocacy, and we built a coalition team with a few other prominent Afghan female athletes in Europe, as well as Canadian Olympians, swimmers and cyclists, and a few other Canadian Olympians. I wrote a letter to our Prime Minister, and I asked him specifically to help evacuate the remaining female athletes because their lives are at risk. And in that letter, I wrote all the information in detail and the reason why behind that. And also, I wanted to point it out to Canadian government that this is purely a gender discrimination, because when the Taliban returned, a lot of male coaches and a lot of the male employee of Afghanistan National Olympic Committee were able to flee the country, and a large number of them are in Toronto. Taliban has banned women's sport, and they received asylum, and they received the recognition from Canadian government for safety and to be able to take a refuge in Canada. And I wanted to point that out, that this is flat out gender discrimination. Men were able to flee the country, women are left behind. And when I sent that letter, through our advocacy and campaign, the entire Canadian women's soccer team and the gold medalists from Tokyo 2020 Olympic Games, they signed and they approved, and they wanted to support my letter. And we also wrote a letter to Minister of Immigration, Sean Fraser, on November 2nd. We congratulated him for his new position, and we pleaded him for help to help us evacuate the team. We haven't heard anything from the Canadian government. We put pressure on the government. Why? Because our government promised us that they will help us evacuate. We are simply asking them to honor their promise. Our coalition team and our support from the Canadian community here and so many other supporters, we have provided housing, resettlement programs, language training, as well as the sports training that they will need and continue once they come to Canada. We are providing solution to the government, but we're still not hearing anything from the government. And government has returned into a brick wall. Nothing goes through it, nothing comes out. So we are in a very desperate and dire situation. However, we are not giving up on our advocacy. I have reached out to my members of my MP, my MLA, and also a senator at the Senate to help us amplify our voices and our message and make sure that these girls reach safety as soon as possible.
And in terms of support from the sport community and people around the table, what can we do?
Thank you so much for asking me that question. There's so many things that the sports community and committee can do. Help us raise our voices. Share our campaign on your social media, on your network. Talk to your MP, talk to your authorities, talk to your favorite politician to raise awareness and also make the government realize that it needs to promise its honor, as well as the urgency of the matter. We have found donors who will donate the entire charter flight for these athletes, and all we asking and what we need from the government is just the visas. And please reach out to anybody you think can support to raise awareness and to share our campaign. It's absolutely doable. We just need the people and government's will and motivation to do it. And you can always reach out to us, if you have any questions and concern, we can help you guide how to advocate and who to talk to and to share our documents, because we have put weeks of tireless work, and we call ourselves sleep deprived volunteers because we truly believe that they need safety and it's urgent matter.
So I will encourage everyone who might want to learn more about this to reach out to Friba, and specifically around getting in touch with local government, what's required for visas, and what you might be able to do with the connections that you have. Now, in terms of athletes, where have they've been relocated to? Those ones who are lucky enough to have made it over here.
The majority of them made it to Europe, Portugal, England, a few other countries in Europe. Australia took some of our athletes as well. Canada has taken the lowest number of female athletes. Canada promised the biggest, but delivered the least. So that is the status.
And do we have any athletes here in BC at this time?
Not that I know of.
Now, you were talking, I know when we spoke earlier, there was some work that women leaders had done around getting some girls into local high schools, as well as some partnerships that were made with some of the universities. What's the progress looking like there for you?
Mm-hmm. Yes, we have been very successful in partnering with universities, University of Simon Fraser, a few universities in Ontario, and one of our excellent and amazing student applied to SFU, and her application is in process for a Fulbright scholarship. Her name is Shamsia Alizada, and she's also our spokesperson for Girls Education for Women Leaders of Tomorrow. She made history at the age of 18 by getting the highest score at the university exam in Afghanistan in 2020, and she became overnight star for education, and she's referred as the Malala of Afghanistan. So her application is in process at SFU, and we're also in contact with different secondary schools in BC. One of our students was accepted recently at Shawnigan Lake School in Vancouver Island, and she will be joining classes and attending her class in spring next year. And we're also in search of Fulbright scholarships for sports scholarship for our athletes, whether they're in Afghanistan or those refugees who have arrived or going to arrive in Canada, because they have the interest and the motivation. They just need the funding and the opportunity to be able to continue their training as well as studies at different colleges. And our process with universities are that we are not asking for a large number of scholarships for a big number. Our request for each university or colleges is to reserve 1 or 2 seats every year for one or two Afghan female athletes. For example, if Langara could take 1 student 1 year, and every year they will take 1 student, they will reserve that seat for an Afghan female athlete. That would help significantly, and that's our request.
Mm-hmm. And Friba and I have meetings set up with some more of the administrators at Langara in the new year, and I've had a few meetings myself, and it's looking like we are going to be moving forward with trying to provide some opportunities here. So I'm really excited personally to continue that journey with Friba, to support however I can. Now, I know that there might be some questions around the table here, so I'm just looking at our time now. Can we open it up to the group here, Cindy?
And I wanted to mention that why I am a big fan of scholarship, because throughout Afghanistan's history, the women who received scholarships at their universities, they became leaders in their communities and in Afghanistan. To mention three, one of our girl who applied to a Smith College, and she later received a Fulbright scholarship at Oxford University. She became the commissioner of human rights, independent human rights commission in Afghanistan. One of them became who received and studied at Tufts University in Boston, Massachusetts. She became Afghanistan's permanent representative to United Nations, and she later became Afghanistan's ambassador to United States. And our latest ambassador to Canada was a female who also received Fulbright scholarship. Because we have seen firsthand and experienced the power of education for Afghans, and that's why we need to continue empowering girls through education. I am also the first one from my family, the first girl from my family to have university degree from UBC. When I went to UBC, it changed my life dramatically, and it opened my mind. It opened a whole new world to me, and I personally deeply appreciate. I want every girl to have that experience, and I've been certainly empowered after attending UBC.
Education and sport, they're pretty powerful tools. And I'm just interested to know what some of the provincial sport organizations might be thinking. And the good thing is that we have this recorded, and so there'll be an opportunity for more viewers to listen to the story and think a little bit about what it is. Is it a fundraising initiative? Is it getting in contact with their local clubs and colleges and looking at scholarships? I certainly know that when more athletes arrive here in BC, they will be welcomed into our sporting community. That is something I know for sure. But the problem is they're not here yet, right? So we need to take these steps to get the voices of these women and girls heard and get them here safely. I see in the chat that there is a message or a question for Roya. So I'll read it out, and then Friba, I was wondering if maybe you could translate for me. It says, how does Roya stay positive as an athlete with such threat to her physical and emotional well-being?
Okay, thank you. رویا جانی سوال بر خودت است. میگه با وجود از اینکه در قدر مشکلات هستی، قدر تاریکی زندگی، چطور میتونی که مثبت باشی و امیدت از دست ندی؟
Because I have a lot of dream, and I think I have a lot of idea for my future. I'm worrying about my future, and yeah, we have a lot of problem in this situation. Even I see in the way, and all the people try to leave Afghanistan. So I think so I should try to live in Afghanistan. I should make ourselves, and I should make my dreams. I have a lot of dreams, so I should try to make my dreams. And so now I'm worrying about my future. Just know my future, all of the people of Afghanistan, athlete girls. I'm really worrying about future, and we don't know what should I do in the future. I have a lot of dream. So we study, we exercise in these years, but now we are feeding at home. No work, no study, just sleep and eat. Finished, no funny.
Oh, Roya, just sending you so much positivity here. It just must be so hard for you right now, and trying to stay positive, and you have so many big dreams that that will hopefully all come true for you. And this is going to be a really challenging time. And sometimes I don't even know what to say. I'm sending you so much power and strength to stay positive, and knowing that all the hard work that you're doing, with your tutor, and your English is coming along so well. This is all, the baby steps that are going to keep you positive and keep you moving in the right direction. And we here in Canada are going to do the best that we can to try and get you to safety and try to get you back exercising and playing and enjoying sport, enjoying education, all the things that you so very, very, very much deserve.
Thank you, Erin. I have shared 2 links with everyone. The first link is to, if you want to support, you can join the organization. There's a link you can join directly, and you can also, you're welcome to donate. The money that you will donate will go towards the cost of the internet connection for the women and girls in Afghanistan. And it's very important for them to stay connected to the rest of the world and tell us what's going on, also continue their studies online. We are hoping that early next year we will expand our English language tutoring program into academic subjects. So the girl will have college degree and university degree through online courses as well at various subjects. And if you would like to help, and people often ask me, how can they help? There are so many ways that you can help. You can help us raise awareness, advocate, and advocacy is the best tool to bring justice and to have social justice, because activism works, and we have seen firsthand the activism that you will do in North America will give hope and revive hope for those women and girls in Afghanistan. It's a life-saving. Women Leaders of Tomorrow has a 45 minutes of walk, which can be held by any community from anyone at any time at their own comfort and community time and date. It's only 45 minutes walk with the messages, hashtag walk with Afghan women, hashtag stand with Afghanistan, hashtag stand with Afghan women, hashtag WLOT, which stands for Women Leaders of Tomorrow, and GOAL, GOAL, which stands for Girls of Afghanistan Lead. Recently, the Crofton House School in Vancouver held that walk for us, and I spoke about girls' education at that school. Students from grade 11 wrote us signs, messages, encouraging messages to their teammates and could be their classmates in Afghanistan, and they went outside with those big signs with Afghanistan color, Afghan flag outside, and they stood with the Afghan women and showed solidarity. And if you would like to reach out to Afghan families directly, many Afghan families are arriving in Canada, and we're collecting donations for household stuff, basic household stuff, feminine hygiene, kids hygiene, personal hygiene kits, as well as winter clothes, winter shoes, school supplies, because when those families left Afghanistan, the majority of these families were airlifted by Canadian military airplanes, so they had nothing but the clothing on their back only, nothing. So they're in need of the school supplies for their kids, because the kids are going to school now. They will join the Canadian community and they will integrate into the community. And if you have any donations, please contact us. I personally train judo with the law enforcement as well. Every Sunday I train kids, and also we train women. And the police judo open their warehouse and the judo center to receive donation as well. So they offer their space to be dropped off for donations. If you would like to donate, please contact us. We will give you the address. You can drop off all those donations, and we will make sure that they are delivered, and those families greatly appreciate.
Thank you, Friba. One more question here. It says, what is the best way to share your message on social media? Where is the best place to find out updates from you on social media? I think, you mentioned earlier some of the challenges with the Taliban and safety for these female athletes and for everyone involved. So there might be a little bit of uncomfort as to what is appropriate to post on social media. But maybe you could share with us a little bit about some techniques or tactics that we could use to support the work you're doing here.
Sure. We have Twitter account and we have Instagram account as well as a Facebook account. And if you visit our website has a section news blog. We always keep updates and post there as well, and it's very, very current, and we try to keep it as updated as possible. So for the social media posts, you can always find our social media posts from our social media pages as well. But for the girls, those girls who made it outside, who are outside of Afghanistan, it's safe to share their information. But those women who are still in Afghanistan, I can always ask them. I always ask whether it's safe or not. And some of them, they still have a small number of them. They still kept their social media pages accounts because that's their resilience. That's their fight back against the Taliban, because they demand to have the right to have that. So yeah, and you can always check with us, and you can always check with your students if you're a tutor, students and athletes, whether it's safe or not. It is, as much as it's dangerous and risky, it's also possible to do it in a safe way. And I must stress the importance of advocacy, especially at this time, because Taliban is looking for legitimacy from the world. And it's the best time to advocate for girls' education as well as sport, because simply no girls' sports, no girls' education, no legitimacy. So right now they are in a very critical moment, because the Taliban, as much as they're married to their ideology, they're also yet sensitive to world's opinion about them. So the activism that we will do from here will make an impact.
Thank you for providing us with that insight. That's important. You know, we're still learning here, right? And we really want to be able to support you the best that we can. And I think, you know, this conversation has really inspired, well, I hope it's inspired and empowered all the people around the table to advocate for female athletes, and to get in touch with Friba, and to talk about this within your sport communities or your personal networks, and maybe it will inspire some creativity in ways in which that we can give back and support Friba and all of these girls. That's my message to you. Friba, do you have any final messages that you'd like to share? I'm just seeing if there's more questions coming in here.
First of all, I shared the link for our news blog on our website. You're welcome to visit anytime. And second, and I would like to finish that the Western feminists, the Canadian Army, the North American Army worked really hard for democracy and human rights and freedom. It's our job now to save those values and the freedom and human rights for Afghan women in Afghanistan. Canada played a vital role in Afghanistan for democracy and human rights. Canada's mission in Afghanistan was to keep peace, play as a peacekeeper, but they went above and beyond what they were expected from them. They built girls' schools, they funded teacher training. So many girls they received benefits from Canadian communities and involvement in Canada. And we may say like Canada, Afghanistan, but at the end of the world, we are a small world, and we are the same people. We are all one big community. You can visit our website and reach out to us, because we hold those Canadian values in Afghanistan very dearly to us. And Afghans who work for Canadian nonprofits, for Canadian military, for Canadian armed forces, they were loyal to them, and now they are in risk, and we need to reach out to them. I also wanted to mention that Canada had the international feminist policy. They funded so many good projects in Afghanistan as well. They can no longer fund that because I understand the taxpayers in Canada say that we don't want our taxes and money go to Taliban. I will not give money to Taliban either. That's very understandable. But the Canadian government, the community has to get creative, has to have creative and innovative ideas to go around it to implement that mission, because Afghanistan needs the assistance and feminist assistance now more than ever. we have to work around, we have to get creative, and we have to have the motivation to work in Afghanistan. We all should always keep Afghanistan in our heart and on our agenda.
Thank you. I like what you're saying. You know, how can we get creative, and how can we personally make a difference here? And I encourage you all to think about these questions as we move forward. Are there any other questions from anyone else around the table? I see a note. Thank you, Friba and Roya. Honored to hear your stories and see how we can support female Afghan athletes. Thank you for sharing that, Joanna. Anybody else today? Okay. Well, I would like to personally thank you, Friba, and thank you, Roya, for coming and sharing your stories today. Incredibly inspiring, incredibly heartbreaking, and incredibly motivating for me, and I hope for everybody around the table to make a difference here and think about how you can help and how you can help these girls. And also thank you very much to Sport BC for giving us this platform and supporting this conversation today. And thank you all for being here to listen.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure and also an honor to be here. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Friba. I think this, I'll stay on for a few more minutes here, and I think Friba will too, in case there's any more questions that some of you might have.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.